Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Wenstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you all for spending your day with us and your service to your community, your service to this great country of ours. And I'm sure that you get up each day wanting to make each day productive. And I'm hoping that today will lead to some productive measures going forward, not only for you, but for your workers and for your families. Ms. Bachman, I worked my way through school and restaurants. I did from dishes to cooking to waiting tables. It's hard work, but I did it all through school to reduce my student loans so that you, the taxpayer, wouldn't have to pay off my student loans, which you shouldn't have to pay off. They're my responsibility. You know, COVID hurt us all. Kids have lost years of education. We saw mandates coming down for a vaccine, removing doctors completely from the conversation in your personal health care. And a lot of this has led to a decreased workforce, including in our military. You know, I'm glad I live in a country where we have safety nets to help us out. You bring up a point where you're in this hole, right? You know, because, you know, we have Medicaid. I'm glad we have a safety net, but you know what? Honestly, it has the highest mortality and morbidity and the least access to care of any health program in America. And we have one party that brags about putting more people in it, and another party that says we want fewer people to need it. And you fall into that hole where you make too much to get, so you don't get Medicaid, but you don't make enough to actually afford $750 a month. These are the problems that we have to address, because in that situation, unless you go from abject poverty to a #1 draft choice in the NFL, you can't just skip over that gap, and you get stuck in it. You know, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did a lot for this country. We had no inversions. We didn't see companies leaving our country. We actually had more coming back in. We encouraged domestic production, which is vital to our supply chain. But let's just take energy, which every one of you have talked about being a cost and a problem and a burden. You know, we have again one party that's advocating that we go to electric vehicles, but all those take batteries that we rely on China for. We can't make them ourselves. We rely on China. We talk about solar panels. You know, I've got fields where farmers said, oh, okay, I'll lease to a solar panel field, and everything's built, but there's no solar panels. We rely on China for those. This does not make us energy dependent. It doesn't help us, and it doesn't help your business. But these policies that we've been putting in place are rewarding China and punishing the United States and punishing your businesses. So, you know, and let's just talk about coal. China's burning coal. They don't do it cleanly like we do. You know, and why are we doing this to ourselves? Last time I checked, the Earth goes around every 24 hours. So what they do matters. And so this is the situation we're in. I served in Iraq for years as a surgeon, and I realize now my supplies, my protective equipment, my pharmaceuticals rely on China. How did we get here? How are we letting this happen to us and continue to make it even worse? What I would like to ask you on the supply chain side is, you know, what is your #1 or 2 supply that really holds up your business? And do you know where it comes from and how you're going to overcome this? Because the way to overcome some of it may be by the actions that we take. Who would like to answer your #1 supply chain concern?
Ours would be electrical supplies, and most of them are manufactured in China.
Thank you. We can go down the line.
Ours is also a stable supply of electricity. We're an entirely electrified production facility. From a farming perspective, though, I mean, look, corn is king in my business. You can't make bourbon without it. And so I hear a lot from local farmers that same thing you hear on the news, but they see it in action is fertilizer prices, fuel prices, seed prices, weed killer prices. All of those things have, you know, they're kind of the root, the thing that underpins the entire, you know, corn underpins our entire economy. Everything is either fed on it, or we eat it, or it's produced to make, you know, used to make fuel. And so seeing that stabilize as well, I think is pretty critical.
Yeah, I'm from Southern Ohio. I get the corn deal, so. Go ahead.
I would have to agree. Food inflation costs are my number one concern, and I think, if you fix fuel costs and getting energy here, then that would fix it.
On the manufacturing plant side, electronics are the biggest issue that we run into, but we run sawmills, and we are entirely dependent upon contract logging companies to harvest the wood that we purchase and bring it to our mills, and that is a dying breed. As those folks cannot get access to capital, it's a very capital-intensive business. So it's kind of the war on small business that's preventing folks like that from starting new businesses, growing existing businesses that affects our supply chain for the raw materials we need.
Thank you. We need to continue to drill down on why those exist, why those are problems, and what we can do to encourage solving those problems. Thank you.